Welcome to the Champion Secrets podcast, where I interview high performers, athletes, entrepreneurs, and humans who I consider champions, so we can all kind of become that champion in our own way. And I wanted to welcome Phil to the show. Phil is an absolute animal and champion as an athlete. In my opinion, he's the best volleyball player of our time, and even times that have come before. He's a champion, and not only that, Phil, every conversation I've had with him, he has been one of the most humble, down to earth human beings, and has inspired me as a husband, as a father, and just who he is on the court. Has just really inspired me from the outside looking in. Every time I see him, he is just cherishing that time that he has with his family and his wife, and it's just really encouraging to me as an athlete, and me just looking up to someone like him. So welcome, Phil, to the show. Thank you for being such an awesome human being and an example. I'm excited to have you here.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, I love to kind of like, because I mean, you becoming a champion who you are, I want to kind of hear like what pre-volleyball, like what was Phil's life? Like what was your childhood like? And kind of enter us into kind of where you kind of started, and then kind of bringing us to kind of the volleyball place. Love to hear.
Okay. I grew up in a beach town called Ormond Beach, Florida,
Okay.
right north of Daytona.
Yep.
Daytona, um, and just had a kind of regular middle class upbringing, I guess. I never was like a star athlete. I love sports, but I was, I guess you could say, a bit of a late bloomer.
Mm.
Um, Dunk. I was always tall and skinny, but I couldn't dunk until I started playing volleyball, which was at 17.
Wow.
Like it, something maybe like I don't know, like um, opened up in my body. I don't know how to describe it. Once I
Yeah.
started jumping over and over and over again, um, all of a sudden I could dunk, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I don't have to get made fun of anymore for being tall and not being, you know." Um, I guess activated is a better word than open up. But
Yeah.
so yeah, and then yeah, I found volleyball and I got obsessed, and that was all only thing that was on my mind was volleyball, beach volleyball, and to be specific.
Yeah. Wow. And so you kind of just got locked in after you're like, I can dunk. Everybody's like, oh, look at him. He's coming into his body a little bit. Like he's getting it going. And
Yeah,
then you kind of, how did you find volleyball? Like you were playing where you were playing a little bit of basketball, a little baseball, a couple other sports. And then when you found volleyball, you're like, I'm giving up all this other hobbies and things you enjoy.
yeah. Basically, I my high school math teacher was a volleyball coach, and he was also he was bugging me for years to come out to the team, and finally I gave in my senior year, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And he was also a pretty good beach player, so some
Mm,
practices down to the beach. Um, and I was like, oh, this is way more fun because, of course, I was the tall, skinny guy and just automatically thrown in as a middle blocker, which I did not
yep.
enjoy. And I mean, I enjoyed hitting out of the middle, but not blocking.
Everything else that comes with it. Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, oh man, like this is way more fun. And luckily, there was like a little beach volleyball community in Daytona at the time,
Yeah.
where me and my buddy kind of had to like work our way up. Like
Mm,
I beach volleyball players tend to be very territorial on their court, especially if there's only X amount of courts in a town, and
exactly.
different, right? And there's all these two young kids trying to play with them, and they're like, "No, your court is down there." And then we worked our way up, and then eventually we got accepted onto the main court, which was actually kind of a big deal for me and my buddy at the time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's awesome. Your buddy there, was he went to high school with you? He was on the high school team with you, and you guys kind of just
yeah,
picked, like, you're like, oh, we want to just go to the beach on our own. Like, even though coach is bringing us once in a while, let's just go on the beach by ourselves. And
that's kind of how it happened. Yeah, and then like in college, well, in freshman year, I came home for the summer, and we were out to the courts like every day. Didn't matter.
obsessed.
Yeah, it didn't matter how hot it was, how hot the sand was. we were out there every day.
Wow. There's nothing like that being that like kid, just like that desire and that like a new
Yeah.
sport that you just are like all in love with. Like I just think about it as like, cause I just started jujitsu and just like, man, like coming back to being fresh, like fresh eyes, like if I could come back to my volleyball fresh eyes too, like, and just be back to where like I was just out there, like having the time of my life and just so obsessed with every part of the game that it just like, and so it sounds like that was kind of your transition. So what was that like with you guys being like starting on the court, they're like over there and then you guys working your way up? Was it like in the beginning, obviously you're getting beat by those guys, and then a year or two later you guys are smashing them, probably, my guess would be.
On for us to be one of the top teams out there. There were some good players. There's actually a guy out there. You remember back, I think it was in the 90s, like early 90s, there was a 4-on-4 tour.
Yes.
Uh, he actually played on the 4-on-4 tour. So he was the best player in town by far.
Yeah.
So it took us a couple years to beat, his name was Jim. Took us a couple of years to beat Jim. But when we did, we were like, we made it,
We
like,
made it. Yes. The king of the Daytona Beach boys.
yeah, and then whatever, I guess we graduated. I started playing with another guy because I didn't think I could win open tournaments with my buddy, unfortunately. And so I had to dump my first time I dumped a player, which kind of sucked.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, but I'm like, hey man, like, I think I can win with this guy. And then that's kind of how I met Nick Lucena, who at the time was going to Florida State, and we would play each other in tournaments and stuff. And yeah, after a while, I think he was like, hey, you want to play a tournament? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that's kind of how we got started with our history, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So you guys were kind of just playing locally at that beach. You guys are playing probably some of those AA, AAA tournaments, and then you meet Nick, and Nick's like, "All right, is he like all in on AVP, or is he bringing you there, or where are you going from there?"
We were probably like around 21 or so. So we were like a junior in college. And at that point, like every weekend during the summer, there's a tournament somewhere in Florida, basically, where you can make $100, which, all right. And, as a college student, that's like, you're rolling in it, you're rich,
Exactly.
So, yeah, I was just like, whatever. I'd get up super early Saturday morning, drive out to whatever beach, whether it's Clearwater or down to Fort Lauderdale,
Yeah.
and play, and then make my way back home Saturday night, and hopefully with a couple $100 in my pocket. And
Exactly.
how I met Nick, just on the Florida beach scene.
Yep.
And then once we started playing together, we quickly started beating all the best teams in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started playing like, we played an AVP qualifier, and we started playing all the tournaments up and down the East Coast.
Got it.
Yeah, once we graduated college.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. So you guys kind of waited till you were like dominating the market there in Florida, and where are you going to college?
I went to college at University of Central Florida in Orlando,
Oh, cool. Awesome.
which is like centrally located. So it was kind of like perfect because I was like 2 hours away from Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater area, 3 hours away from like Fort Lauderdale, Miami. So if I got up early enough, I didn't have to get a hotel room, and I didn't have money.
Yeah.
So I just got up at like 4 and made my way down there or over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the Florida tournaments. Like I played in one recently, a couple like 6 months ago, one of the Dig the Beach ones, or they always have some really fun tournaments down there. I really enjoy. I think that one is in Fort Lauderdale, but yeah, that's okay. So you guys were diving in and to the starting the qualifiers, like once you guys graduated college. And what was that like? Like your first time in there? Were you following the AVP for a while before then, or did you guys kind of just dive in? No.
I
Okay. Yeah.
kind of like a hobby of mine that I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And never did I think uh, while I was in college, I never thought that I would go try to play professional beach volleyball. Never even crossed my mind, really. And after college, we played that one AVP qualifier, which is in Fort Lauderdale, and
Yeah.
we met named Adam Roberts, who you probably know.
I do. Yeah. Great guy.
And he at the time was living in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and in a beautiful house right in the ocean, court in the backyard. And he invited Nick and myself to live with him and train with
Hmm.
him. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I just got my degree. I'll go up there for a couple of weeks, see what it's all about. And I ended up staying for 2 years. And they
Wow.
like that's when I was like, okay, like I'm gonna give this thing a go. And Adam kind of showed us, his partner at the time, Matt Heath, too. They kind of showed us how the pro tour worked, like because we had no clue. The whole,
Mm.
Adam knew every single little loophole. You play this tournament, that tournament, and as long as you get like better than a third, you'll get a main draw bid. Like, okay, well, sounds good. And that's how we got in our first main draw. Was we did exactly what he said, and we got in our 2003 Belmar, New Jersey.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wild. So I guess that point where like he's asking you and you're not sure like what you're like, I got my degree. Were you planning on just kind of getting a job and going? Was that like were you kind of just like up in the air after college? You were unsure?
Well, I had a couple of job interviews,
Mm.
and I thought about my future sitting on a desk behind his computer for the rest of my life, or
Yeah.
pursuing the thing that I was like, man, I really like playing beach volleyball, and like, all right, I'm pretty good at it. Um, so I told my parents like, hey, I'm gonna give this thing a shot, and they're like, no, they're both like immigrants from Switzerland and Germany, and they're like very by the book. Like, no, you got a degree,
Hmm.
get a job. The whole what society tells us.
Yep.
And I was like, give me till I'm 25. That's it. I could get a job at 25. Like give me a couple years to see what happens. And man, I won on my first professional tournament, 25. Uh,
That's so crazy.
yeah,
That's
uh, it's kind of crazy that how it worked out that way.
Yeah, that's wild. You thinking, and yeah, your parents pouring into you, like, no, just get a job. And you're like, you have this obsession of
Yeah,
this sport. And you're like, I just finished college. And you're like, oh, maybe, but I don't want to be in the desk my whole. So maybe I
yeah,
should take this Adam guy on this offer. So man, what a cool opportunity to have someone to like show you guys the ropes. Cause I mean, I think that's a beautiful place to be though, is like unsure about the tour and having someone teach you. And you guys just all in on playing and competing and being your best. So you weren't worried about like the points and this. Cause I think so many people when they like find out about AVP, they overdwell on like all that rather than just being their best. And then like for you guys, just literally having Adam being like, all right, like I'll show you guys the step-by-step way and like what you guys should do. And you guys are just in your craft, like trying to be the best in your craft. So take me to that because I feel like so many people get so caught up with that. You guys were just so focused and obsessed with the sport and open to whatever Adam and that Matt guy was kind of showing you guys. So what was that kind of like?
uh, I mean, it was a little bit freeing. Um, at like first, we didn't have to pay any rent, so
Oh yeah.
had no financial responsibilities other than like putting food in our mouth and
Yep.
figuring out how to get to point A to point B, which is usually in a car, divided by four of us in the car, you
Yeah.
know. And then we all had air beds, so like between the four of us, we knew someone in the town that we were at.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, we just played volleyball to like feed ourselves, which
Yep.
um, it was kind of like probably the two funnest years of my life. Like I was just playing ball. Um, we like I don't know. There was no pressure really, um,
Mm.
and we really kind of learned how to win. Like
Mm.
because it was like we were playing a lot of semi-pro tournaments up and down the
Yep.
East Coast, kind of to fund our AVP trips.
Yep.
And yeah, like we just man, we played so much there. So many players want to go. You know, they like play a couple open tournaments and they're like, okay, I'm gonna try to play on the AVP. I'm like, whoa, dude, you haven't even won an open tournament yet. Like, you got to figure out how to win tournament in your neck of the woods. and then your area, whatever, and then you go up to the next step. But so many people want to go because it's this whole instant gratification, right? It's got to be,
Yes.
they just see, all right, they see something on Instagram or whatever, TikTok, and they're like, I want to play AVP. But look, you're seeing the finished product here. Like it was years and years of like, we put in work,
Yep.
and so yeah, we probably played in 2003. We probably played, I don't know, I'd say around 30 tournaments, you know,
Yeah.
like we like March to like October
Yep.
and weekend off, Um, but like I kind of compare it to a stand-up comedian, right? They just do as many shows as they can. They learn their craft, and that's kind of what we did. Was we just played as much as we could, and luckily we were in a situation where, we didn't have to pick up like a serving job or whatever, which a lot of players
Yep.
have to do because there's just not much money in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I want to talk about that as well, just kind of the money side of it. But that's so cool that you guys had that couple years to just focus on your craft and literally just have that focus of being like, how do we win all these local tournaments and how do we like figure out how to win and learn how to win? What was that? What like I feel like so many people talk about like you got to learn how to win, but like what was that process for you guys? Just continuing to play and continuing to like, was it mindset? Was it like stuff you're learning from Adam or other people around? Like what was that like 2 years process of learning how to win? Because that's something that I agree. It's something that is necessary for your journey. Like not to just I win one tournament, oh, I'm gonna go to the AVP. It's like no, like you got to prove yourself and be winning more than that.
Right. I think it's a big mindset thing. A lot of guys, a lot of people, they have, all right, if we get into the final, they're just happy to be in the finals, which and then they don't like, I don't know, it's almost like they put a ceiling, like a glass ceiling, right? And they get to the finals and they're like, okay, we reached our goal. Now, whatever, they take their foot off the gas pedal, um, or they get nervous or whatever. So, like, everyone's different. Like a great beach volleyball champion, um, Laura Ludwig from Germany, like Olympic champion, world champ. I think she was in 8 or 9 finals before she finally won her first one. And then once she did, like once she figured out that formula, and every formula is different for everyone else, she just took off, like um, it must have been like a huge confidence thing or whatever. So I really think it's kind of a mindset thing. And like everyone talks about mindset and like it's kind of like the new word,
Yeah,
and sometimes gets a little annoying, but
for sure.
man,
I agree.
reason why it's out there because it is a huge thing that we deal with.
For sure. Yeah. And that's so true. Laura, man, her and Kira when they won, and then the or Brink and Reckerman won the year before. And it was like the their serve was the same. Like they're
Yeah,
very sciencey. Like I saw the coach, he has like a book in German. I was like, I want to get that thing like translated, like because he won a gold medal with the men's team and the women's team. I was just like, this dude is like, whether it's mindset or biomechanics or whatever, like these people sciencey are like on it to some extent. So, but yeah, I agree with the mindset stuff, even though I do some mental performance coaching with people and I hear the same thing too. It's like, it's all mindset, but it's like, all right, like what does that actually mean? And yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure, have you read the book Mindset from Carol Dweck, the
Oh,
fixed and growth mindset?
oh yeah, of course, yeah,
That's a
yeah,
good one. Yeah, yeah. But like you said, that word is thrown around like ridiculous nowadays. But there is, like you said, some truth in it. But there it is thrown around a little too much as well.
yeah. Sure. But like, I mean, we all have our like, it's another phrase like limiting beliefs, right?
Mm,
And yeah, it's like on us to kind of work through it, right? And it all kind of comes back to the mindset, like, all right, if you're happy with the finals finish, then all right, you're going to get second place.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, if you're content there rather than in that moment, you're like, I belong here. You're in that finals. You're like, I belong to win this. I've been working hard at like changing those almost like shifting those fear beliefs into that
Right.
abundance more like mindset. And did you like automatically do that? Did people teach you that, or you just kind of you found your own formula, obviously? But
Yeah, it's, it could, in the Florida summers, it could be real easy to be just happy with being in the finals, because it's like, all right, 95 degrees, 80% humidity, like you're playing a tournament over one day, a whole tournament. So you're playing like 6 or 7 matches. Like it could be really easy to be like, all right, I'm cool with the second place, or I'm cool with the final finish.
yep,
But it kind of just happened organically for me. Like, I want to win. I came this far. I want to win this tournament.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think it kind of just translated. You know,
Hmm. That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so you won your first tournament at 25. What was that conversation with your parents like? Hey, I hit 25, like, and I'm making it work now. Like, what
well,
was that like?
actually, I should go back a year. In 2004, Nick and I were a main draw team by then, and
Yep.
we were kind of like around. We were kind of like in the 12 to 16, 17, 18 seed, kind of in that range, because at that
Yep.
back then we had a 32 team draw, so there
Wow.
was
Double.
14 main draw, right?
Mm.
So, um, 2004 Hermosa Beach, we were the 16 seed, and we won our first match. And then we played Karch and Lambeau, Mike Lambert, who were number one seed, right? And we beat him. We beat him. And then I knew, like, something inside me, like, was like, holy crap, we just beat Karch and Mike Lambert. Like, this could turn into something. And we end up being a fifth in that tournament, and we beat, on our way to fifth, we beat Jeff Nygaard and Dane Blanton, who a month later represented the U.S. in the Olympics, and then we also beat um, Dax Holdren and Stein Metzger, who was the second team in the 2004 Olympics for the U.S. So we beat Karch and the two Olympic teams, and I was like, "Whoa, this is going to happen." And we ended up getting a third there. Um, did I say no? We got a third, and so then I just felt like I belonged there. Like, this
Mm.
is, I could do this on a regular basis. So then when after the 2004 season, I realized that I'm not going to get any better in Myrtle Beach, because it was kind of a part.
Mm.
I always called Adam the social chair of Myrtle Beach, because he knew of any kind of party, like he knew all the bouncers and servers. Like, he's just like a social butterfly. And I
Yeah.
knew it's really easy to get caught up in the scene. So I moved to California and started training against, all right, California teams on the regular. And Nick and my game just like skyrocketed. And yeah,
Mm.
the year we made the finals, and we played Stein Metzger and Jake Gibb, and we took them down like 18-16 in the third. And before the match, Nick was like, and I don't know if this is true, because they say like your memory is about 50% correct, but
Yeah.
this is the story I'm with. And he was like, it's crazy that we're in the finals. And I was like, dude, we belong in the finals. And I just felt like, I don't know where that confidence came from or whatever. But I just felt like this is where we belonged. And we won. It was great. It was an awesome match. And it was a moment I'll never forget.
Absolutely. Wow, that's crazy. Going from, yeah, unsure what you're going to do, obsessed with this sport, and being in Myrtle Beach, getting this awesome opportunity with Adam and learning so much. and then taking down, yeah, Karch and Lambo. That is wild. I can't like that flip. That I'm sure you're just like, all right, we belong. This is like I'm like, was it like I'm moving out here? Was everything just kind of like after that tournament? And then like once that shifted, like you said, your game just went through the roof because you got to play against all those guys consistently, right? Down in
Yeah.
California. Was that something that like Adam and that guy Mike were like, you guys should do it, or was it just like you and Nick are like, we need to make this happen? Like,
Well, Nick actually made the move first because he was dating a girl out there,
oh wow,
and actually she lived in Santa Barbara.
yep,
So he was like, come out," and I was like, "All right." So I moved out there, and luckily in Santa Barbara at the time, Todd Rogers lived there and Dax Holdren.
mm,
And yeah, so we trained. Dax was playing with Jeff Nygaard, who was a '04 Olympian, and Todd was playing with Sean Scott back then, and they were one of those two teams were like top 5 teams in the country, you know.
wow,
And so that's who we trained against a lot. So all right, we had to kind of level up to compete with those guys on a daily basis, right?
yep,
And yeah, it was just like organically, our game just got better by playing better players, you know.
mm-hmm, absolutely, and that's wild.
Yeah, that's kind of why you have to live out in LA to become all right an elite beach volleyball player. Like I don't see a way where you, unless you have like I don't know a few really good players in an area. You know, St. Pete,
Mm-hmm.
Tampa area is kind of like turning into like the East Coast headquarters of beach volleyball, but it's still like you're not going to get a guy playing World Tour um, to move out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's very true. You got to be out there if you're trying to do AVP stuff. I've noticed that. Like, I'm in Arizona now, but when I was really
But
pursuing it and playing at my highest level, I was like, I can't be here. Like, I just can't. Like, the environment, there's something like the magic. Everybody's training hard out there. It just
yeah,
is, and it just, yeah. People definitely have to understand that. But that's wild because you played those two teams and beat those two teams going to the Olympics, and that was your one time that you didn't play in the Olympics because you've been in the Olympics 4 times, right? So that Olympic cycle there was the only one that you weren't a part of, basically, throughout your
yeah,
career.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. And you didn't even have a chance really to cover. You had like what, a couple months after your first couple of
Yeah.
years on the tour, or a
It's
couple
just
of years.
the whole Olympic thing is just so long. So like all right, we would have had to already start playing FIVB in '03, you know, and we were just not, we weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. After that first win and that move out there, like how different was life the same? Pretty similar to what you guys were doing for those 2 years out in with Adam out there in Myrtle Beach? Or what was that transition after winning that first tournament and then like, all right, we're all in on this. We're like, what was that
um,
like?
my car was broken. I was broke. I had no money. I needed that money so bad. I needed a car. Luckily, I had a car that worked, so we just took his truck everywhere. So I went out and I bought myself a car, and it was a brand new Toyota. Um, oh my God, I'm blanking. Scion, the little box car.
No way, a Scion XB?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Those are awesome. My neighbor literally had two of them growing up when I was a kid, and I was like, that was my dream car for the longest time. He had one that was like neon and one that I was like, these are the coolest cars.
Yeah. But that, actually, it was that car was. I think I'm a big believer like energy or whatever, and
Yeah.
there was so much like positive vibes in that car because it was money. You know, whatever. I traded my car and I forgot how much money I put down, like say like $1,000 or whatever on it,
Yep.
and it was like that car was like never had a problem with it. I've up uh, drove so much from like LA to Santa Barbara and whatever, just traveling around. And it was great. I think it was just because I loved that car because it was the car I bought um, after winning my first tournament.
Wow, that's such a cool memory. Driving that box car around, you're probably just giggity, just stoked. And there's a lot more room in those things than you think. Most people don't
Yeah,
think so. For you, it wasn't too bad.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it was good. It's good.
That's super cool. That's really cool. All right. So yeah. So now take me kind of, I guess, from that point, you win that tournament. Are you guys already thinking the Olympics? Are you starting to think FIVB, or do you kind of do a couple more seasons before you really start pursuing the Olympics?
So, so it's 2005. The Olympics is in '08, right?
Yep.
And we were kind of in the AVP season. We were like, all right, we moved probably to like ranked 5 or 6, somewhere in there, you know.
Yep.
And when I look back into my career, everything kind of just like worked out for me. Like it's almost like I was meant to play. Like for
Mm,
moving up at Adams, who showed us, we live, first of all, we live rent free, which is huge. And Adams showed us kind of the ropes. And then moving to California and getting to train against Todd and Dax, their teams.
yeah.
Uh, and then like a week before the World Championships in 2005, the World Champs are every odd year in beach volleyball. Todd's partner broke his finger, and
Mm,
he couldn't play World Champs. So Todd was like, "Hey, you want to go play World Champs?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." Like, it was in Berlin, Germany. Like, let's do it, you know. And
yeah.
so I get there, and like we literally have like 2 days before we start playing, and
Yep.
we get one practice in, and we end up getting a seventh out of 64 teams. Oh no, 48. I think it's 48 teams.
Okay.
I can't remember. Anyway, so we
Yeah.
had the best out of any U.S. team, and so then now World Champs is like triple points. So now I had all these points, and I came back and I was like, Nick, let's go play some qualifiers now, FIVB qualifiers. So we went and played 2 Grand Slam qualifiers, Paris, and at the time the best tournament in the world, Austria, Klagenfurt, Austria, and we qualified in both the tournaments and took a 25th. But um, me playing with Todd, we just kind of meshed. Our games meshed. I think that's the reason why he asked me to play with him in '06 before the
Yep.
season. And then that's when, all right, we're making an Olympic run. And I that year, '06, I won my first FIVB tournament with Todd, actually
Yep.
in Austria, which was like a great spot to have um, your first FIVB win, because it's like a full-on party in that stadium. It's a lot of fun, great, awesome atmosphere.
That's super cool. Klagenfurt. Wow. Okay. So yeah. So you got wow. Like you said, you like everything like you're saying, it feels like you're meant to play this game. Like everything. Like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people think this is kind of like hippie talk or whatever, but like I said, I'm a big believer in energy and whatever, and the law of
Oh yeah.
attraction.
Hmm.
And man, like they always talk about coincidences and like synchronicities and all this, and that was my career. Like every single um, decision I made worked, like was the right decision, and just whatever. However, if it felt to me, if it felt good, I'd roll with it. If it didn't feel good, I was like, nah, that's probably not what I'm gonna go with. And things just worked out. Man, I don't know. Like I don't know if it's luck or if law of attraction really exists. Like I don't know. But um, I was pretty fortunate with how everything kind of just worked out.
Yeah, that's so cool. So it's kind of serendipitous, like that. All these things kind of like fall.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, that is so cool. Because I mean, yeah, you're in college. You're thinking like, oh, I'm probably gonna get a job and be like everybody else, and then you get this opportunity, and then like you said, you get the opportunity in Santa Barbara. Nick has a girlfriend down there, and then Todd's partner finger, and then you get to play opportunity there, and then here you are in 2006, like couple wins on your belt, like, excited for the Olympics, like, and I'm sure what was that like transition like? Because I mean, that was probably that was your second dump of a partner, right? Once Todd asked
Oh,
you like to, because you said you had that one there, and what was that like? Because Nick's your buddy.
yeah, that was a tough one. That was the toughest one probably because we'd been all right at that point. Uh, we've been playing for 5 years or so, you know, and
And living together too in that house and moving across country together, kind of. Yeah.
yeah. So that sucked, but he understood. Like
Yeah.
Todd was the best defenders in the world at the time, and he was known as the professor. So I thought I could learn a lot from him, and yeah, I could be like, all right, I could be like a world class team, with
Yep.
him. And yeah, it worked out like, man, right off the bat, our first FIVB that year, '06, we made the finals and we lost to um, Ricardo Emanuel, who at the time were like, all right, they '04 Olympic champs.
Yep.
Ricardo silver in 2000. They were like the team to beat. They're like, I mean, head and shoulders above everyone, right? And
Mm.
they saw us, this young, I don't know, probably weighed 185 pounds back then, 9, goofy, bald kid from Florida. Like, there's no way I'm going to lose to this fool.
No way.
They gave us a smashing. But later that year, we played them in the finals of the Klagenfurt tournament, and we beat
Mm.
them, turned the favor. So it was, even winning your first World Tour event was already like so awesome. But on top of that, you beat Ricardo Manuel, who is by far the best team in the world, made it even sweeter.
Wow, and in Klagenfurt too. So it was every other year. That was just a normal tour stop. That one the year before was World Champs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So back then, FIVB changes, stupid thing all the
Every
time.
day, right? Yeah.
Like, just roll with one thing and just stay consistent.
Agreed.
But we had two types of terms. There were Grand Slams, which obviously were the big ones, and we probably had like 7 or 8 to play in back then. And then there were Opens, which were like, all right, not as competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so yeah, Klagenfurt was a Grand Slam, and then we had the World Champs every odd year. And in '07, it was in Switzerland, where I was born. Um, and most of my family still lives there, and we ended up winning world champs in Switzerland, which was so sweet, so sweet. Another like perfect example of things just worked out. Like, things just worked out, and it was like, yeah, pretty crazy.
How cool is that to have your family there? Was that one of the first times like all of your family were they able to like come to that event and stuff?
Aunts and uncles and cousins and my parents came over to watch, and we ended up in the semifinals. We matched up with Ricardo and Manuel again, and we won 19-17 in the third. And it was like, dude, there's no way we're losing the finals now. We had all this momentum going to the finals, and we actually beat a team from Russia. And we kind of rolled them a little bit.
Wow, that's so cool. What a journey. What a freaking journey. That is so cool. And then 2007 obviously brings us to 2008. You're at the time that you guys are getting the gold, but take me a little bit of the transition, I guess, of like what your training looked like with Nick before and how that transition to, the professor being with Todd a little bit. Like, did your training look any different? Did he kind of add some things to your toolbox that you didn't really do? Like, what was that kind of transition like?
Well, Todd really kind of showed me how to be a professional athlete as
Mm,
far as lifting, and he was going to a strength coach. He was actually at UCSB at the time. His name is Bob Alejo. So I started working out with Bob, and like, I worked out, but I never really got taught how to lift weights.
yep.
Um, it was a little embarrassing. Like, he was like, all right, let me see your squat technique or whatever with the bar or your deadlift. And he was like, oh, dude, we can't even put any weights on it yet. You just got to use the bar. So like, I started from scratch,
From
like nothing,
scratch.
zero strength, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, kind of worked my way up to be a little stronger. And Todd and I, we just, man, a lot of times at the time, there wasn't really many teams to train against in Santa Barbara. So we would go out there and I would just rip jump serves at him and try to ace him. and and man, that'd be like 30 minutes of our practice sometimes. I mean, just trying to ace him. And he'd go on the right side and left side or whatever. And that really, speaking of tool belt, skills tool belt, I talk a lot about actually. That, man, one of my best tools was my jump serve. I think because of that. But because we spent so much time on it, Todd's passing was great, which it had to be. But my passing suffered because, all right, I was just getting like easy floats, passing easy floats, you know. And yeah, so a team to say that had two big servers, I struggled with because they would serve me, and they'd put me out of system a lot. And yeah, so luckily most teams didn't serve me, and they just served Todd, and he was just like steady Eddie, smooth side out, moved the ball around, did his thing, and never got rattled, rarely ever anyway. And yeah, it was like a great formula for us, right? And no one really tried, you know, like serving me much because they just thought Todd was diggable or whatever, you know, like
we can beat this guy. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And that freed me up just bomb jump serves and block, you know, all my on that end set. But it's easy to set when most of his passes were like money, you know.
That's really interesting. Glad you came from like, like learning the movement patterns of the squatting and then going out there and those practices of just you and him just working on your jump serve, working on your like you said, your tool belt, and those three things that ultimately led to your success as a beach volleyball player. And that's cool how like, most people are like, oh, how do you get better? And it's like, you can get better with you and your buddy. And I'll go out by myself sometimes and I feel like I can get better, like and that's cool that you guys were just literally like, all right, Todd, if you can pass my jump serve, you're like, man, I wish I could serve myself so I could work on my passing. Probably, I bet you're thinking, or like having someone to serve you like that. But
Well, I was so into trying to ace him because he's a really tough player to ace. So I thinking thinking about what I'm missing out on, you know. But to go back to your point of like you could get better just going out there by yourself. April Ross, who's now a gold medal winner, a silver, and a bronze medal winner, she would go out by herself and she would work on her footwork because she wanted to be a defender. She didn't feel like she was a blocker. So she would work on her footwork on digging a cut shot or digging a line shot. So she'd get whatever, almost like an approach, you know. So like, yeah, there was definitely things you can do by yourself. Are they fun? No, no.
exactly.
Serving can be fun, you know, like if you're trying to hit targets, but you know, after 15 minutes, that's gonna get pretty dry.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, it will get dry, and like, unless you can make it fun and act like a kid and somehow bring it back to that childlikeness that we have in us.
Yeah.
That's funny. Cool. So I guess 2007, moving into 2008, you guys had a couple big wins against Ricardo and Emmanuel. That must have felt amazing going into 2008 with the Olympics. When did you guys find out you guys were? I mean, probably after a win or two in 2007 that you guys were going to the Olympics, or maybe that's in Switzerland.
Yeah, so when you win the world champs, you get an automatic bid to the Olympics.
Got it.
Yeah, so we were, um, we were in the Olympics. Not only did we win the world champs, we were in the Olympics, which is sweet.
A dual whammy.
Yeah, and so '08, we were like rolling. We just World Tour, like the 4 tournaments before the Olympics, we got second. First of those 4 tournaments, we got second to, of course, Emmanuel and Ricardo. We lost in the
Yep.
finals, Germany, but then we won 3 in a row. World Tour events, all Grand Slams. We were like first 1 seed in the Olympics, and we were just kind of like on fire. But first match of our Olympics was against, we were the 1 seed. It was the last seeded team of Latvia, and they beat us.
Wow.
Yeah, and boy, was that like we had all the confidence in the world, and that sent us like, or sent me anyway. Like I was like, holy fuck! Like excuse my language, but we just went from
real.
being the best team in the world. Like I think we'd won. We had like a little streak going. We hadn't lost in the last 3 tournaments. And we only lost once in Berlin in the finals, and so that set us back a little bit. But to go back to the point of things just worked out, we ended up winning our next 2 matches in pool play. That put us in the bracket, in the exact opposite side of the bracket.
Where you would have been. Yeah.
If we would have won our pool, we would have played Fabio Marcio, who was the second ranked Brazilian team, who was like 3rd seeded team. It was in the tournaments, right? It was us, Ricardo Manuel second, and Fabio Marcio 3rd. We would have been in the quarters, and then we would have played Ricardo Manuel in the semis. But since we lost our pool, we got second. We were in this bracket, and we had like the dreams were all not a dream. Every team was good
For sure,
but like Germany, the second German team beat China, who China was really good back then.
Wow.
So we played them in Germany in the quarterfinals, and then the Dutch, who were like, I don't know, 5th or 6th seeded team, good team, right? They lost to Georgia, who's actually 2 Brazilian guys. So we played Georgia in the semifinals, who were like, I don't know, probably seeded in like 17, 18, somewhere back there,
Wow,
So
that's a big deal for them making it there. That's crazy.
Yeah. So we basically had 3 Brazilian teams in the semis and us. And then them, and then Fabio Marcio beat Ricardo Manuel, which was a big upset in the semis, because we expected we were going to play Ricardo Manuel.
Yeah.
And so we beat Fabio Marcio in the finals, 15-4 in the 3rd. It was hot. It was really hot there. And Fabio was a big guy, like a really big guy, like 6'8", probably like, I don't know, 235, I'd guess. Like,
wow.
And Todd was just short deep. And by the 3rd set, he just ran out of gas.
Wow. That is wild. What an Olympics, just to start with that lot, like you said, with Latvia. You guys are like on this super high, and then it's just like boom. I'm sure that moment was just like, all right, time to get our crap together. Like, let's fire it up. Like, what was the conversation you guys had after that? And like, what was the momentum after having that, like slowly building up to the ultimate winning the gold medal?
Yeah, so we in the Olympics, you play a match every other day. So it's a really slow tournament. So
so you have a whole day to soak in that. Wow.
Yeah, so we we lifted that night. That was the plan, to get a little lift in after our match. And it was just like part of me was like, I don't want to go lift, but I knew like I had to do it, which still is pool play, which we're not out, So it was a quiet lift. with
Yeah, I bet. Not a quiet lift. Yeah, a lot of thinking and not a lot of like like all excited in the gym.
yeah. But yeah, we came back out and we kind of rolled the other two teams in pool play, and we just got rolling. We got going, and
Found your flow again, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, basically, yeah. But it was probably my toughest loss.
Hmm.
Yeah, probably my toughest loss. Yeah, I would say that was my top because it was like on a global stage, like you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we were kind of like since we had all this momentum in the going into the Olympics, like all right, like NBC, this whole Olympic thing, they like try to grab teams, and like Carrie and Misty were like unstoppable back then. They won '04 gold, so like we kind of piggybacked off of their popularity. So we were kind of a story going into Beijing, like we
For
could get
sure.
beach volleyball, and
Mm.
yeah, we ended up doing it. But there's a saying in Swiss German, mit Ach und Krach, which means like it was really hard work and it was like not smooth at all. Basically, it's like translation. So it was like not easy. And if it were easy, it wouldn't be as sweet. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Yeah.
absolutely not. No, no, I feel like everything in my life that I've felt like you're like you tank and then you come back. It's kind of like just the way of like the peaks and valleys that we have in our lives. And we learn so much and we grow so much from those times of adversity. So for you in that moment of you saying like, yeah, that's my toughest loss, and like being able to take that adversity and take that pain and to use it in a positive way rather than feeling shame, guilt, or feeling like beating ourselves up. Because I feel like that's the human nature.
Yeah, for sure. We're all like wired negatively, right? Like, because 20,000 years ago, we had to be like cautious and negative about everything. Is that thing going to kill me? I don't know. Like I'm just going to take the safe route here. So I think I heard that somewhere and I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, of course, people are like, that's why the news is so negative because people want to hear
Yep.
negative crap. You don't rarely
Yep.
see a healing story on the news. Um, so, I mean, yeah, so that's the easiest route to go. Just like, yeah, I'm in the Olympics. It was cool, like I'll just play and have fun. And like, it's really easy to go that route.
Oh
But
yeah.
you're like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna stick to the plan. I'm gonna come out strong our next match. And but man, it's a tough, not easy thing to do by any
Oh yeah.
stretch of the. Yeah, it's so
For
easy to
sure.
just be like, maybe this
Hands
is
up, I give up.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Rather than having the self-control to deal with it and face it head on and be like, all right, like we're moving forward. Like that's in the past. Like let's get
yeah.
back to the present and let's focus on what we can now. And that sounds like really what you guys did. Was a lot of your family at the Olympics and during that
And
gold medal match?
just my parents came.
Your parents were? Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Wow, I can't even imagine that to have your parents after like because I mean, what that was you were 25 in 2005 or 2004?
yeah, yeah. 2005.
Wow.
I was 28 in the Olympics. Yeah,
Wow. So that time frame that you're telling your parents, I'm gonna do this till 25, you got a gold medal around your neck at 28. That's a pretty I can imagine what their excitement was like and just to see you grow and mature as the man that you're becoming and the athlete that you're becoming. What was that kind of like for them? Was that were they like, oh, because I know you said they were kind of like strict and like that. Were they extremely excited for you?
for sure. Like they, no matter, I will say, like they really wanted me to get a job, but anytime I'd be like, hey, can I like borrow $100? Like I don't have any money. They were
Yeah.
always help out financially. But my dad, he had in one of the cabinets, he had a piece of paper, and he kept all my debts. Like whenever I would ask for like $100, whatever, he'd write it down. So by the time in 2005, I did decent.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. you owe me let's see, $2,100 that was. And he showed me the paper, and I was like, "Are you serious?" So I was like, "All right, I'll give you your money. I appreciate the support, even though you guys wanted me to get a real job." But yeah, I mean, it kept me honest, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. It sounds like you have incredible parents. That's really funny that I could see my dad doing the same thing if I was going through something. He'd be like, all right, like, let me show you what you got here, the debt you got to pay. And you're like, dude, I just won the Olympics. What the heck? Like,
But the Olympics, when I started making, decent money. But yeah, they were like, at that point, they were like my biggest fans, basically, you know.
that's
Um,
so cool.
yeah, totally.
And so what
So
was that experience after, being on top of the world in 2008 and, getting that gold and
yeah,
like, because then the next day it's like normal life, right? Like what is the, because I know you went
yeah,
through some stuff mentally and stuff. Was that around that time or was that a couple years after that? Or take me to that a little bit.
2010. I had like a little bout of depression, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, basically, all right, we won uh, the gold medal on Saturday morning. We did like media all day through the night, and then we had a flight the next morning because we had a tournament the following weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio, and yeah, like it was just like, all right, back to work, kind of type of thing, you know. Um, and there wasn't really much time to celebrate, you know. Um, but yeah, so yeah, in 2010, like I was saying, I had like a little bout of depression, and man, like um, everything was going great for me. Like 2010, we had the best. Todd and I had the best season ever in men's beach volleyball history. I think Carrie and Misty had a better season than us, but we won like 40. I don't remember now, 41 or 42 straight matches. We won 9 out of 12. We won 9 out of 12 FIVBs, and we got second, third, and fourth in the other three. And I was engaged to my soon to be wife, whatever, like everything was going
Yeah.
great. I had money in the bank. I had a couple rental properties. Like, everything was going great. And then, I mean, I wake up like crying. I'm like, what am I crying? Like I just didn't know. And luckily I knew a guy who had dealt with substance issues,
Mm-hmm.
and like, go see my therapist. He's great. And he kind of, I was like, I mean, I have to talk about my feelings, and like, I don't want to talk about my feelings. And, he's like, well, I mean, you feel like crap, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he was like, I think he can help you out. And sure enough, he did. I ended up, after a couple months, I dragged my fiance at the time, and so we kind of turned into like couples therapy, and like that really like gave us like a strong foundation, and yeah, it helped a ton. And I was like, he got me on antidepressant, which I told him, like, I don't want to be on this for very long, just to kind of get me through this. And he's like, yeah, and he gave me kind of like things I could do to like, all right, deal with the depression other than just the medicine, you know. And yeah, it was like I think it was a good thing for me to go through, like you said, those like waves, and that those hills and valleys, or mountains and valleys, whatever you want to call them, right?
Yeah.
And I was in a deep valley there, but I learned a ton by working myself out of that valley, and it's really helped, um, really kind of um, mold me into the person I am today. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so powerful because I think so many people avoid seeking help and avoid even just talking about their feelings. And because the reality of it is like sometimes these things come out and we don't even know. Like, yeah, I had a similar experience. I just started bawling for no reason. I'm like, and I'm just sad. Like, I don't know why. Why am I depressed? Why do I have this anxiety? Like, it's kind of a funky thing. And so for you to like go out and seek when everything, because it's weird, because like everything's going good. Like,
Yeah.
what, I shouldn't have anything wrong. And it's probably easy to just beat ourselves up and be like, oh, there shouldn't be anything wrong. Like, why am I this? Why am I that? And so what was it pretty easy for you to open up after he's like, "Hey man, just tell me what's going on." Like what was that kind
Uh,
of process like?
I hated every single. I remember like driving. Like, oh, I don't want to go. Stupid. Like, like I don't want to talk about my feelings to this stranger. Like that is the biggest thing. It's just talking about my feelings, which I
Hmm.
men don't like. you
For
know.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, after a while, you kind of like, all right, it's helping, and so you're just like, it's just something you got to do. Like, all right, if you're an athlete, you got to stretch probably, which I enjoy stretching now, but back then I did not.
Yeah, you're like,
Uh,
"No, I'll just play all day." Yeah.
yeah, like why do I mean I feel great? Why do I need to stretch? But realize it's creating those type of habits that, all right, and in 5 years from now, which will definitely help you out. You know.
For sure. Yeah, was that helpful to have your now wife, Jennifer, with you there? Were you guys were engaged at the time and you guys started to kind of go together a little bit?
Yeah, it was it was really good, and like kind of like, because we all grow up completely different. We all have different perspectives on the way we see, like a different lens, the way we see the world, right? And really to be in a room with a professional, like be like, well, this is what I think, and the other person is like, well, this is what I think, and then kind of just hash it out. And it really, we kind of learned, all right, we at some point we're like, we could kind of hash it out on ourselves by ourselves now, and like he kind of gave us the tools, and it was really, um, really, really good. Money well spent, I would say.
Absolutely. Investing in yourself in that way, like there's no better investment in yourself to know that you're gonna be able to have those tools to be able to navigate that situation moving forward. Whether, yeah, like with me and my wife, we did some premarital counseling as well, and that was so powerful just to have that mediator and to share those things, and for like someone to be able to be that middle ground to help
Yeah,
us. And then, like you said, you can kind of learn to navigate it moving forward because you kind of added those tools, like we're saying, even with volleyball, those tools to your tool belt.
yeah, 100%. Like you can make a pretty good argument that those tools are way more important than, all right, like say like learning how to um, use a spreadsheet or whatever, like uh, whatever career skills, whatever you want to call them. But
Yep,
those are way more important than, all right, learning how to code or something like that.
for sure. Yeah, skills that, like you said, they've made you into the man you are today, and they've like I guess now, like turning back, like if you weren't willing to go down that and do the therapy, what do you think would have you would have at some point would have gone to it, right? Or
Well,
it's hard to
the
say.
way, yeah, I don't know, the way I see are like, how would I say, um, like our basically our mood, we'll call it,
Yep,
your vibration or whatever, right? We're all energy. We're vibrating at a certain frequency, right? But we'll
yep,
just call it. And all right, back then, my mood was, I use the analogy like, all right, you have a ship, and if you're sailing north, you're sailing to deposit the person you want to be, like your perfect, picture of yourself, right? And then if you're
yep,
sailing, that's like, all right, you're going to, the worst person you could be, like you're depressed, or maybe you're addicted to some sort of substance, whatever it may be, right?
yep.
And back then, my ship was sailing south, right? and I didn't have the tools to right the ship, right, to sail it to the positive direction, right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
now I that's how I view my day, right? Like, okay, am I sailing in the direction I want to sail, basically? And it's that simple analogy, like like, all right, for example, this morning I woke up grumpy, right?
Yep.
Um, and every morning I meditate or whatever, and I still was grumpy for whatever reason, who knows why. And and whenever you're in that mood or vibration, whatever you call it, things test you. It's like, man, like they attract you. And like
Yes.
my daughter didn't eat her fruit this morning. Every morning we battle. Like, hey, just eat a fruit. It's like nature's candy. It's not a big deal, you know. But there was all kinds of resistance to her. The
Mm.
shake made yesterday, you know what I'm saying? She didn't want
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want to eat it because there's too many seeds from the berries. And I was like, oh my God, this is rut. And it's just like, all right, now my ship is even sailing, farther negative because she won't drink her stupid shake. And then uh, my son, we got an argument because, I mean, this like stupid thing, like because our dog was chewing on my hoodie, which had some treats in it, and
Yep.
he didn't know about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, why don't you pick it up off the ground? What? And like that got an argument. So it's like, dude, like, uh, after we dropped him off to school, I was like, I gotta like recenter here. So like, all right, like I meditated some more, and then like I have like I have a list of what we'll call it my North Star, like where I want to, the person I want to be ultimately, right? Which I'll
Mm.
never get, always going to be chasing,
Yeah.
but
Never ending. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which I'm okay with. Like that's the
Yeah.
journey, right? And so I'm like, I got to read through these. I got to right the ship, and like slowly but surely, I was able to kind of like, all right, now I'm heading in the right direction. But some days, man, like it's just hard to it's hard to right the ship. You know what I'm saying? I
For
don't know.
sure.
Do you do something similar, or like um like how do you view your vibration or mood, or like
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. I that's funny because this morning there was like two or three. I have a 16-month-old, and there's like two or three dirty diapers this morning, and it's so funny because like anything little can like you said like take you off that because you're like I have this big vision here, like I want to go here and I want to be this person, and I'll never arrive, but I am trying to become this person, and these are my missions, these are my values, these are my principles. This is like my vision board. I have a little vision board on my phone that shows kind of where I'm going. Be where your feet are, be present, no social media, like kind of all these things. I'll have to show you at some point. It's kind of cool. And then I kind of have these like missions that I stand for and like values and disciplines, kind of like what I want on my gravestone, like all these like these big ideas. And like you say, like I think that resistance is so real. Have you read that book, Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art?
no. What is it
It's
called?
insane. It's a small little book, War of Art from Stephen Pressfield. It
Or
is like the War of Art. Yeah. And it's basically like the internal war that we have as humans to start a business, to publish a book, to like any of those things. And he literally like calls it out as resistance. And it's like this thing that
yeah,
is keeping us from that. And he portrays it in like really cool. It's a small little book, but it's like it's so cool. Resistance in work, resistance in art, like resistance
yeah,
in relationships and like all this stuff. So I think you get a kick out of it. But yeah, I see it as not only that, like trying to bring myself, like you said, back to my North Star and back to who I want to become, even at those things that are bringing me down that negative route. And one other thing that has really helped me is you've probably heard of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, so he has a book called Outwitting the Devil.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, that one, I literally a lot of this resistance and a lot of this negativity, I tend to almost like just because he's like he talks about the devil, like literally trying to make sure 99% of people are are off the path, or what do they call drifters. He's like 99% of people are drifters because like me is the devil, because that conversation he has with the devil throughout the whole book is like
Yeah.
like these 6 fears. And so I try to bring it back to that. It's like, man, like it's literally this freaking like devil, like just keeping me from this positive, like where I want to be, this North Star. So I really like the way you portrayed that, because it's like, yeah, like these things will kind of push us outside our path, and we'll be going to the Earl Nightingale has this video on YouTube, and it's like, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up nowhere. And it's like so many people, I think, get caught up in that, of not having that North Star, or that like vision, or that ultimate, because that's the only way that we can figure out what that gap in between who we need to become and what we need to do to get there. And if you don't have that, it's like, it's hard. But I think, like you said, bringing myself back to that and knowing that the devil's trying to make me a drifter. I'm a 1%er. That's kind of like where my mind goes in those moments, because
Like
it's
that.
like, this is what I'm saying I am. I'm this 1%er. Like, so yeah, I like that analogy though. That really makes a lot of sense, because yeah, it'll just take you farther and farther from your North Star, the more into that negative space that we get into. And meditation helps me a lot. I love meditating. I do a lot of breath work. I don't like to call it breath work. I like to call it more of like functional breathing, because I think so many of us, in like restoring our efficient breathing patterns, because most people aren't breathing properly. And I've been studying it for the last 4 years, and I still have a long way to go in my practice, but that really helps me, like in those moments of those events, like my response to those, like it helps me, because I'm like, man, event happens plus response, like I'm in charge of half of this at least. So it like helps me kind of take a little bit from the like whatever that outcome is. So it's like I kind of try to think of those are a couple tools that I use that really helps in those moments, because I feel you, man. Like when I have that like grumpy vibe, or I wake up a certain way, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to my tools in my tool belt so that I can find myself back to this presence in this place.
Yeah. And it's like, man, we live in a day and age where like it's great. Like you could go on YouTube and just kind of search, whatever you're feeling, how do I deal with this? And you'll get like, hundreds and thousands of videos that you could be like, man, this is incredible,
Yep.
like,
We literally have almost too much information. It's like we got to pick the information that we like actually will use.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of riffraff out there, I guess I'll call it.
Riffraff. That's yeah, riffraff, fluff, all the above.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's good. I like that. I had that book, Outwitting the Devil, but I've not gotten to it. But now I think it'll move it up on the list.
Yes, I'm telling you. And they have it on YouTube actually. It's like 2 hours or 3 hours of just listening, if you ever do listening too. It's free on
Oh yeah,
YouTube, I found. So I
nice.
listened to it and read it, but it's really cool. It really just portrays like it just really helps me in because I'm a very spiritual person. Like Jesus is my savior. I'm all in on that. But like that's a really cool like connection where it's like not talking about spirituality. It's literally just keeping you from the things, kind of like the resistance. It's not even talking to about it in like a spiritual or religious realm. It's just like, no, like there's this devil that wants to keep you from the amazing things that there is for you. And 99% of people are drifters. So I think you'll get a kick out of that book. It's really good. And I don't know if you know the story, but I think he wrote the manuscripts and he didn't publish it for years. His wife found him. She didn't publish it because she's like, I'm not going to publish this. Like, and then like someone found it, and 10 years ago it was published from like someone else that found the manuscript. So it's kind of a cool story how it came to fruition.
That's cool. It reminds me of if you ever read the book, I'm gonna butcher the name, Bhagavad Gita or something like that, or
Oh yes, I have that. I haven't read it yet. Yep, that's probably very similar.
so it's
Yeah.
similar. Like this guy is on the battlefield, basically with his ego, right? And
Yep.
that book is this small book too, and like him working his way on the battlefield, through the battlefield, and that
Yep.
it is a battle, man. Today for me, it was a battle. you
Yeah.
know,
That's a good way to look at it though. It literally, yeah, it's a battle. And you're like, I'm ready to fight for this. I'm ready to fight for what, like, and get rid of that bull crap that is like doesn't serve me, but somehow can kind of get a hold of me, which is really, really interesting. And we're back. Just like you said, it's a battle, and no matter what, and all these external things can happen. And I want to
Right.
dive a little bit into that a little bit more. Just like what's that been like? Because I know you said today is a little struggle, but like and you use those tools, but like how like I guess how do you continue to navigate it, and how do you, because I'm trying to learn now that I have a 16-month-old, how can I like teach those tools that I'm learning? Are you doing kind of the same thing with them and trying to teach the tools that you're learning from all this as well?
I've realized that anytime I try to teach them something, nothing's getting through to them. You know, speaking of resistance, there's like a wall of resistance whenever you want
Yeah.
to, like try to teach them a lesson. And now they're 9 and 10 now, my
Okay.
kids.
Yeah.
And so now they have like, all right, they got opinions and thoughts and attitudes. And, I'll be like, oh, this is a way you could do this or whatever. And like, oh, here we go, daddy. Like, they like, they know what's coming. And
Yeah.
so I realized I'm not gonna like push this stuff on them, because ultimately that's what I'm trying to do, is like push it on them, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
just, all right, lead by example. Hopefully they get, um, they pick up some of the things we do. But yeah, like you could try as much as you. A perfect example is, all right, um, I have like a little beach volleyball club, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have like 3 levels: beginner, experience, and competitive. And
Yep.
both of my kids come to beginners, right? And
Yep.
they will not listen to a thing I have to say out there. Like, they'll just roll their eyes, if
Yep.
I'm trying how to pass or whatever. And I'm
Yep.
like, hey, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about here. you know. And when you roll your eyes in front of all the kids out there, then you give them basically permission to roll their eyes, and like I gotta have like a stern talking with them, a stern chat. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I realized like, oh, maybe sometimes they're open to it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe try this, or maybe I'm not phrasing it the right way. Maybe I'm coming too strong. Probably a better question for my wife, because she probably she has an opinion about how I deal with the kids for sure.
Yeah. I like
Uh,
that though, leading by example and bringing it back to that. I think all of us humans, and like you said, like the kids don't want to listen to their parents or listen to other people saying the same exact thing. But the thing that I feel like I've learned too over just like observing is like me in general, if I try to tell like my parents or a friend to do something, like they're not going to do it. They don't really, but if I like can portray it in a story of like, oh, like hey brother, like I started doing this and it helped me in that way, then they're like, oh, they come to the conclusion themselves and they're like, oh, like maybe like because I came up with it, that's okay, like versus dad came up with it, like that's not okay.
yeah, that's 100% true. Like, the trick to communicating with people is get them to come up with the idea that you're trying to show them, right? Or whatever. Like, that's um that's sales right there, right? Basically, it's like, get them to come up with their own conclusion that they need your product or whatever, right? So you're sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking about business, I guess we can kind of get into that a little bit. I was really curious. You're into ball time now, and are you still in real estate as well? And what's your kind of business and entrepreneur and your business with your coaching as well? What's that called been looking like the last couple of years?
So I've been investing in real estate since 2010.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, but because I knew at some point I'm not going to be making the money I am at that point back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because unfortunately, um, you know, as an athlete, you have a shelf life. You know,
Yep.
mine's been longer than most, which is great, but I still have like, all right, some time where there's going to be a lull of a time where I'm not making money. So I knew, all right, I need something that will spit out money. So real estate
Mm-hmm.
was something new.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, like I'm just kind of like, all right, trying to be more active with that, like trying to buy bigger properties and things like that, and which has been a challenge. Like it's
For
you have to
sure.
raise money from other people, and like if I were giving someone an investment who's never, you know, yeah, like you don't do it by yourself, but you do it with a team. But like
Mm-hmm.
that's never really, um, you know, bought a 50 unit apartment complex, whatever. Like I would
Yep.
be a little like, I don't know, man. I'll wait for deal 2, 3, or 4. Like you want to get your feet. And so it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's fine. It's just all right. I gotta get better. It's basically all comes down to.
For sure. Yeah. And that's the real estate. And so yeah, I worked with a couple real estate guys that were in the wholesaling into the apartments, and then one person actually that was in land investing. And at that point, I was doing their marketing. So they would sell like a $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 product, teaching
Yeah.
people how to do the wholesaling or teaching people how to do the apartments or the land. And like we crushed it. One of my buddies, we made 100 grand in one night, but like
Dang.
the kind of, yeah, it was wild. It was, and we made $1 million that year just selling his $5,000, $10,000 product. It was wild. And he
What
was
was
already
his,
doing what?
what was his name? Okay,
Josh Gaiman. Yeah.
I
Yeah, he
thought
was
maybe.
in a lot of those like masterminds, like with the Sean Terrys of the world, and the Max Maxwell. He's another guy.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of them are.
some of like the
A lot of them are
a lot
out
of them.
in.
What?
A lot of them are out in Phoenix, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, it's big. It's a big wholesale market and a big apartment market. Yeah, and even the land people were doing big deals. So yeah, and every time I was selling this, I'm like, man, we're selling literally a digital product out of thin air and making $100,000 in one night. But you also are flipping a deal and making $100,000 in one day by doing a wholesale deal. So it's just
yeah,
like the kind of money that these people are like in, and when they're all in on it, like it's just wild. Especially me as an athlete, because I was like struggling financially all the way up to like 2017. And then I found out about this whole digital marketing thing and selling people's courses. And we just like crushed it. And then I was like, all right, now I got to get into real estate myself. That was kind of my way into real estate a little bit myself as well. But yeah, tell me a little bit. You're an investor in the ball time?
I am an investor, and
That's a great product.
yeah, so good. Yeah, and I at first I was just like it was like a small sponsor deal for me.
Yeah.
Um, then I kind of messed around with it, and I was like, "Dang, this thing is freaking awesome!" And around the same time, they're like, "Hey, we're taking on investors. Would you want to invest?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do want to invest." And man, it keeps getting better and better. And I think, like, all right, there's basically one big player in the video analysis um, volleyball world, and that's Huddle.
Yep.
And the way Huddle works is, all right, you upload your video, and they send it to like India, and they take 24 hours to break down whatever ball time, and you just upload it onto the website, and within an hour it has everything broken down, all the dead time taken out, stats, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's all AI. And um, the more it practices, from this is how I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
it gets. So like, all right, if Huddle does come up with um, competitive product, then they're like 2 years behind because
Yep.
had 2 years of practice. So yeah, I am an investor, and it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, share that. I'm sharing share that to everyone out there. Ball time. Is it balltime.com or balltime.ai?
I think it's balltime.com. Actually, I
Cool.
probably should know.
Yeah. I've got an account on there, and from you actually posting a couple, I don't even remember when it was, but I was like, this thing's amazing, because in my past I always had my mentor and coach. He would always go and cut up my film so that I can go and watch it without seeing all that dead space of it being, an
Yeah,
hour. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I literally have spent an hour watching myself walking to shag ball. Like that ball time thing has been so efficient. And for me to actually go back and watch some of my old film is just so fun to do. And it's just a cool
Yeah,
way to make it efficient. And then, oh, if I want to post something, I can post it, and it's super easy to post. And yeah, I literally feel like I'm a video editor using that thing. I'm like, dang, I
yeah,
don't even know anything about this, but
yeah.
that's a great product. That's really cool. So, and then I know you've got your Phil Dalhausser Volleyball Academy down there in Orlando. You opened that like 3 years ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, we opened, let's see, like a couple months before COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Yeah. So it's about 3 years now. Yeah. What's that been like as far as a business?
It's been good. It's been we only have two courts, so we're a little limited.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, but I've actually learned a lot about volleyball just by coaching it, and I really have a lot of fun, especially with the younger kids. Like it kind of be like it's like lighthearted and fun. Like I try to make it. It's not like we're repping out, passing and setting with 10-year-olds because
Yeah.
they're gonna be like this sucks. So like
Exactly.
yeah, so I've like kind of come up with like different types of games to where we're like I'm sneaking in technique, but we're playing a game, you know. So that makes it fun for them, and yeah, like, and then like, all right, I have older kids, like high school kids, that some of them want to play college volleyball, and um, they're more serious about it, and because I've been serious about beach volleyball for 20 plus years, it's just not as fun for me because
Mm.
the seriousness about it just, oh, but not, I'm going to say turns me off, but it's just not as fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're having a lot of fun with those kiddos, like learning new things, making fun games for them, making it a little more creative for them. And because it's not the same old of kind of like, yeah, that's serious. Like this is my job. This is how I provide for my family. So that's probably a little harder to navigate versus just hanging with the kids and playing with them and creating those games. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun for sure. Um,
And then you're getting opportunities like you said you had the Israeli team over. Are different like countries kind of hiring you to do some coaching for them as well, like in the
uh,
interim?
really only Israel. I've worked with them for a few times now. Um, their top team. All right, they're like physically, they have all the tools.
Yeah.
But they're 20 and 23, so they make a lot of silly mistakes.
Got it. Some youngins. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just the oldest out of they have 16. I mean, three teams, so six
Yep.
players. Oldest out of those six guys is 23, so they're all super young, and they all love beach volleyball, and it's just like, um, like each player is its own puzzle, and like I'm just trying to
Mm.
like get him to see like, okay, like, all right, you could bounce the ball, that's great, but once you get to the world tour, everyone can bounce the ball, and that's the balls that get blocked or you hit the net or you hit out or whatever. Let's kind of like work on maybe a deep swing, and that'll open up your bounce, and just
Mm.
like that, like they're just so gung-ho and like full of testosterone,
Athletic.
like
Yeah.
want to crush, and I'm like, hey, let's smooth out the passing a little bit, and things like that, or like one player, man, he's really physically gifted.
Mm.
If he makes an error, it's like the world has come to an end. Like, hey, just one error, man. It's like 1-1 in the first set. Like, it's we still got a lot of volleyball to play here. Like I just try and teach him like a short-term memory. Like, all right, try to hit that on the 10-foot line, sharp angle. Like maybe okay, you missed it. Maybe try to go 15-foot angle here, and you might put it in. Just like things like that. Just like
Yeah.
where
They're young.
yeah, I'm like, all right, one of them are the 20-year-old. There's two 20-year-olds. I They weren't even born when I first started my career, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy coming full circle now. That's wild. That's really, really cool. So I guess how's that approach now? I mean, you probably had some cool mentors in your life, like Adam and Matt kind of along the way, and I'm sure you had some others along the way. How like do you use a lot of the things you learned from mentors and the things from books and things to pour into these kids, and a lot of from your experience as well? But like what's that experiencing but like having mentors and then transferring to being like that mentor for others?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think most of the stuff I talk about is probably stuff I learned from books. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And then like translating it into the beach volleyball world,
yep.
and kind of, I'm a very logical person, and that's
Yep.
kind of beach volleyball. Like, all right, if I'm getting to like some technical stuff here, but all right, if a guy is 7 feet off the net, like you give him anything in the sharp angle, right? Because the
Yep.
chances of hitting that is slim. So you play, you know, more likely he's going to hit straight ahead or deep middle or shoot line, right? And if he hits a cut shot, be high and loopy, you still might be able to chance, you have a chance to dig it. So kind of just playing the odds, out of a
Mm,
thousand times, and a guy is in this situation, and of course every player is different. 7 feet off for me is no problem to hit sharp angle. So okay, a guy like me maybe do need to slide in um, into the angle, but I'm also tall with long arms.
mm-hmm.
So it's different for everyone. But just like, so that's a little bit of experience, and like, and then the mental part of it is just definitely from books. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. There's endless knowledge out there. It's a beautiful thing. Like if you literally just open, like we say, YouTube everywhere, but books in general, you can literally buy someone's knowledge for like $10, $20. Like it's wild to me that, and then people that do that, like they'll like hire someone that wrote a book and pay them $50,000 to work with them and get the same information that's in the book. So it's like if you just open the book, like you're gonna get all that information no matter what. So I guess I mean with you and you having such a successful career in beach volleyball, like I'm kind of curious because I think for me as an athlete, this was big, is like how do you define and how I guess maybe think about back when you're like maybe when you're a little bit younger, like what was success to you then? And how has that kind of definition of success evolved? Because I think for so many people, success is different, but like what
yeah.
was that definition then and how has it progressed? Or if it hasn't, like what's it like today?
Well, I mean, I guess it's changed over the years. Like when I first started playing, success was just qualifying,
Yep.
right? And then okay, like once you qualify enough, you're like, okay, now I want to win a couple matches in the main draw, and but then once you win, you're like, okay, success is only you're walking away with a W, you know, and it really
Yep.
hasn't changed for me. Well, I guess it has a little bit, because now it's like I view it as a business. Beach
Yep.
volleyball, go
Mm-hmm.
to, I'm there. I've won enough. I'm just there to make money,
Yep.
basically, and have a little fun. It's not so serious for me anymore. So like, all right, if a guy can offer me a couple of sponsorships, and do I have a chance with him to win with him? Maybe, if all the stars and moon are aligned, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Uh, but it's worth it for me to play with that guy, with rather than someone who I can maybe win with, have a better chance of winning with, but the prize money sucks now. So like, all right, I win, but I'm not. I'm just it's taking time away from my family, and if I'm going to be away from my family, I'm going to be making money. You know, so I guess success for me now is, how much money can I make on the weekend?
Yeah.
Basically,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, and that comes down to your family because the family, is the most important thing. And I think for me now, I'm a newly married, newly little child, and like my life has changed completely. It's all about them. It's not about me anymore, which is one of the most beautiful things. But it's
yeah.
definitely hard to kind of make that shift. But
It
it's one of the most beautiful things when you can kind of sit in that. So yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. You're like, I'm doing this for my family. Yeah, you're gonna have fun and go and do whatever, but it like the purpose is literally to make the living for your family and
Yeah.
to make the living. I mean, you being the most decorated beach volleyball athlete, yeah, you should be making millions and millions of dollars just like all those other athletes, but it's just the way the cards are dealt. But like you said, serendipitous, you found your way through the sport for a specific reason. And it's just been such a cool just to even hear you say it yourself. Like, man, like I just was meant to play this sport, and that's just so cool. And just that transition of the success, because it's like success used to be like winning, now it's like winning for my family.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your relationship with your wife. I feel like that is so important to you and your kids. Obviously, you value that so much. Like, take me into that world. I'd love some tips as a new husband and a new father. Like, you've been incredibly inspiring to me in that way.
I appreciate it. I don't know. I try to live in the philosophy of happy life, a happy wife, happy life. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Hmm.
Um, and I don't know. Like we've um, like at this point, all right, we've been married for uh, almost 13 years.
Awesome.
Like yeah, we're like a unit. I mean, this is so unromantic, you know what I'm saying? But we're a team, and
Yeah.
we're going through, time, space, reality, whatever you want to call it, as a team, and I wouldn't rather. There's nobody else I would rather do it with, and we're having a lot of fun. Sure, there's ups and downs. Sure, we have disagreements on things, but for the most part, it's been great.
That's so cool. I love how you portray that as a unit, as a team, because I think so many people these days are trying to be two individuals, and I feel like that never ends up working out so well. And it's crazy because in the Bible and even in our premarital counseling, a big thing is like you need to become one flesh, and it's like you two literally need to become one. And it's like that's literally what you're saying, and it's like it's true. Like if your decisions are of one, and you make decisions as a unit, as a squad, and you're like going to the same place, the North Star, you have that kind of dialed in with your teammate. And I mean, that's the same thing in any sort of team, but with that specifically, someone you're spending the rest of your life with, like that is so important to have that all
Yeah,
in, committed, we're as one. Because yeah, there's no other relationship like that at all, that you can be one with that person. So that's
100%.
that's that's really cool. How do you feel like that relationship and the things that you've learned from that have, I mean, well, you've been married for 13 years, so you were basically like halfway through your career when you got married, about, or pretty
Yeah,
close.
yeah. Let's see. I was about 8 years in to my career when we got married. Um, so yeah, a little bit less than half. But I think to add on to your point there, like if and this is what we learned in counseling and therapy, like it's super important for children to see two healthy adults like deal with conflict in a healthy way, and just like otherwise then all right, they're gonna have like issues. Every kid's gonna have some kind of issues, whatever, but man, if you could give them like the tools that we learned, in our, well, I was in my 30s, you know like they're gonna grow up with that, and then man, I think that's just invaluable, right? If you have a healthy relationship as an example for your children, I think it's just so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the best thing you can leave your kids with, is being that selfless person to that person that you committed your life with. Like there's no better way for a child to grow up to see two become one, and two be a unit, and like you said, navigate the conflicts and the chaos of life, and to be able to navigate that and to be able to portray that so that your kids will be able to see that fruitful, positive relationship. That's really neat. Um, and so you told me a little bit about like the books and stuff that you've been learning from. What are some names and some podcasts and some stuff? I think I saw something about Tim Ferriss, it's Tools for Titans. You're into that stuff. Like I know we could nerd out about that probably all day with books and whatnot,
Or
but like who would you
Robbins,
say some of those main people are?
Tony Robbins, I really
Yep.
enjoy. Because he's talking, what everyone's talking about on social media and whatever. It's literally in his books, like word for word. It's like they copied. I'm actually rereading his Unlimited Power,
Yep.
which is, man, so good. I really enjoy Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know, have you delved in hit with him?
Yes, I actually just picked up one of his books. I've listened to some of his meditations, but this is the first time I picked up one of his books. I think Unbreaking Yourself or something
Yeah,
like that along those lines. Yeah.
is what it's called. Um, he's really good. And then there's a lady. This is a little out there, and there's a lady. Her name is Esther Hicks, and she channels her. I guess I don't exactly know how to describe it, but consciousness, her like inner self. She channels who uh, he calls. Well, I guess we could say they call themselves Abraham. All right, because and so Abraham communicates through Esther, and which sounds wacky and crazy, but the stuff they say or she says or whatever you want to call it is like so good. It's like, man, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Abraham Hicks, I really like, and they have like 7 or 8 books, and they have like 15-minute YouTube like little videos
Yeah.
that whenever I use it was one of my tools, like to pull me out of like a little bit of funk. Like, oh yeah, like the goal is just to be, in a state of gratitude or happy or whatever.
Mm,
And it's just like a quick reminder, you know. But
that's
those would
awesome.
probably the three. I could keep going on and on. Sadhguru, I love. I don't know. Have you ever watched any of his videos or?
I have not. No, not yet. I'm gonna have to take a peek.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's because he has a little. He's kind of funny too. His name is Sadhguru. Sadhguru. He's an
Sadhguru. I'm gonna write that down.
older Indian guy, like um, but I like him.
That's awesome. Yeah, Tony Robbins, I've gotten so much from him. And that dude's story's wild because like so many people were like, oh, dude, you need to have a certification or you need to have this. He's like, no, dude, I know how to help people and I'm gonna help people. And he just goes and helps people. Like that's
Yeah.
so cool. And then yeah, the Joe Dispenza, he's an incredible dude. But I've heard Abraham Hicks and Esther, and I can't remember where I heard that from, but I definitely will have to dive into those as well because yeah, I feel like we're on that same like personal development mindset, like kind of tool belt, kind of all that kind of stuff, improving ourselves, being our best self. And one guy, I'm curious if you know John Wooden.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. John Wooden has been like, oh my gosh, like it's so funny. Every person that I've ever worked with as like that was like a mentor or a coach in my life, they're all just like, Christian, like I was pen pals with John Wooden, and you have to study John Wooden. I was graduated high school. I was homeschooled my whole life, and I got given his Pyramid of Success book.
Yeah.
And so it's just wild how like these people come into our lives in a variety of different ways, whether it's an ad or something we find, but then we end up being like, all right, this is someone that I'm going to follow, and I see their values and their morals and ethics kind of align with me. So
Mhm.
I'll kind of want to like dive deeper into. What would you say would be the main things that you've like value wise that you kind of connect with or have gathered from those people are things like those tools that you've been able to kind of add to your life or like you said the gratitude and things like that take you out of funk and things like that, but are there any like principles and things that you feel like you align really well with and that have really made a difference?
Yeah, I would say, man, it's tough to choose a couple,
I
but
bet.
like just staying present, right, is like the biggest thing. Like if you're going to change anything, you have to be present with your emotions, feelings, whatever. Otherwise, you're just going to be operating on your standard operating procedure, right? Your subconscious mind is just, it's like a computer and it just operates the way it was taught. back when you're a child.
Yep.
And in order to break those habits, you have to be aware of them, right? So that'd probably be the biggest thing. And then like, all right, like Abraham Hicks says, just try to be happy, whether that's like, or she said, raise your vibration, whether that's like, can be different for everyone. Listen to music. For me, lately, man, I'm obsessed. Probably similar to you with jujitsu, disc golf. Obsessed. And I love it. There, like in Florida, all the courses in the canopy of oak trees. So you're like in shade and just like so peaceful. And as I get older, I want to be in nature more for whatever reason. And this is perfect. I play under these trees next to a beautiful lake or whatever. And man, I come out of there feeling like $1,000,000, after I play. But yeah, just like, man, you got to figure out.
So cool.
You just got to figure out what raises your vibration, or your mood. Again, whatever you want to. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I think of it like, it's funny. Titrations is a word that I've been using. And it's like, I add these titrations, like my titration of breath work, my titration of my, like just everything that I like consume. Like, it's kind of like I titrated, staying titrated out. And like you said, like getting a little bit of nature and getting a little bit of presence with the breathing, a little bit of gratitude, and like, titrationing myself in some way. It's kind of a word that I like to use. But yeah, wow, that being in nature is absolutely the best thing. And obviously, because our sport is outside, which is the most beautiful thing. But now that you're finding disc golf outside, because I picked up golf as well, because jujitsu is fun, but it's like, and I love it, but it's like being inside in a sweaty gym, like, oh, like I just want to be outside, like, and I feel you in the nature. Like, what has that been just the last couple of years since post, like, kind of not setting up volleyball, but like your career kind of down a little bit? You kind of were like, oh, I need to get in nature and find another sport like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like really kind of looking for another sport just because of COVID. All right, like my buddy was like, "Hey, man, you want to come out to this course and play some disc golf?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." And ever since then, I kind of caught the bug, and it kind of calls me. Like, I don't know if it's the game or nature or both combination. I just love it.
That's awesome. When I'm out in Florida, I'll have to play we live in Fountain Hills, and it's kind of funny because they have a disc golf course around the fountain, and the fountain, like at some point, was like the Guinness Book of World Records for the highest like fountain or whatever until like 2000. But they have a disc golf course around it, and the last time I played it, I lost like two or three
Oh yeah,
discs over there because the water's literally
that,
surrounding it.
that,
Yeah, if you're ever in Arizona, we'll have to play there. And then there's this place that I thought was funny. We just went to last weekend. It's called Phil's Filling Station, and it's literally like a restaurant. And I was just like, literally, Phil has to eat at Phil's Filling Station. Like, that is just wild. Such a weird name. You're like filling up, like most places would be like filling up gas, but you're like, no, you're filling up food. And they have like a huge menu. Like, it's so funny. But a little disc golf and a little Phil's.
yeah, sounds great.
Anyways, Phil,
In Arizona, you could go out in the water and grab your disc, but in Florida, that's not an option. I mean, it is an option. You're dealing with wildlife there, and then that may take an arm off.
yeah, you're gonna lose a limb or something if you try to dive in there. Here, I mean, in the summertime, maybe. Right now, it's a little cold, actually colder than we're used to, but it could be a little cold plunge to get yourself your disc. Maybe you'll have a better throw the next time.
Nice.
That's funny. Take me into the future. I mean, are you planning on playing this year and obviously building your club and real estate? Like, what's the next couple year, 2 years, 3 years for you?
So like, I mean, it depends. The AVP got bought out. Well, 51% was bought by another owner now.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so he's going to change some things. I don't know. We'll see again, like if it's worth playing.
Yep.
But to me now, beach volleyball is like riding a bike. Like, it doesn't take much time for me to Like I don't really train. Like I hit it around
For
a
sure.
couple really guys,
Yep.
and after I don't know 5 to 10 minutes or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this now. And
Subconscious.
yeah, for sure, it's definitely in my subconscious. Um, so we'll see if it's worth playing. Um, but like I kind of have fun playing now. But again, if it's not worth my time leaving for 4 days, is I'm just not
For
gonna
sure.
do it. But yeah, like real estate excites me. Like I want to get into this game. Like I see it as a game. Like you're hunting for a deal. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
so that's kind of fun. And yeah, all right, I'm trying to get back to the sport, like by growing the sport out here in Central Florida, which is kind of dominated by indoor because
Yep.
there's not sports in Orlando. But yeah, that's kind of my way of giving back to the sport that's been so good to me.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Well, Phil, I would love to dive deeper and have more time, although my wife is kind of telling me to kind of get to her, but we'll have to maybe
Yeah,
we'll schedule another one for part two because I would love to dive into we only got to 2010 and I would love to dive into even more books and more strategies and things like that. So we'll have to do that. But I really, really appreciate your time sitting. I had an awesome conversation and I really hope that you did as well. And I hope that everyone can take some really cool nuggets from today. I felt like there was a lot of really cool stuff that we kind of got into your story a little bit. And everyone, if you're ever in the Orlando area, hit Phil up and check out his club. And I went there. I was there about what was it like 2 years ago? You weren't there, but I think I trained with like what was it, Rafu and Dave Palm, and I was down there with like Caleb Queckel because I was in Florida for
yeah.
a couple weeks or whatever. But yeah, and next time I'm out there, we'll have to play some frisbee golf. But I just really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much. You're a champion, and this Champion Secrets podcast would is I'm excited to share all the champion stories that we're able to get into, and just really appreciate you, Phil.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Boom, bam. Have a wonderful day, y'all. All right, I'll try to pause this.